Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
That was a bank run. Don't be dumb. It's so obvious, son. Don't you run.
Belarus will not hesitate to use nukes if aggressed. That is, of course, according to Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus. It says that Russian tactical nuclear weapons will be deployed in Belarus in, quote, several days, said President Alexander Lukashenko, according to Belarusian state media. Lukashenko said on Tuesday that Minsk was ready to host the arms, days after Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the weapons would be deployed July 7th through the 8th. Everything is ready. I think we will have what we asked for in a few days, and even a little bit more, he said in comments cited by the Belta news agency on Tuesday. Lukashenko warned he would not hesitate or use the weapons in response to potential aggressors. Why do we need them? To make sure that not a single foreign soldier sets their foot on Belarusian land again, he said. God forbid that I have to make a decision to use these weapons, but there will be no hesitation in the event of aggression against us. Now, is this a setup for something to happen, whether it be a Fantastic Freddy event where somebody wearing a certain uniform walks in and does something horrible to make them respond to that? We don't know. Or is something else going to happen on their end? We don't know. But what we do know is there is a lot of telegraphing of moves right now, and it really seems like something tactical is about to happen. So we are going to follow all of that and more on tonight's Marfoogle News. We're also going to talk about the warning that was just given to European banks, 48 hours to get in line, or they will shut down the central banking system in Europe. So we'll talk about that and give you all of the deets on that. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Don't you run. China was a bank run.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf. Make sure to go over to the website, marfooglenews.com, to find a full bibliography for today's show. You're going to find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document when you go to our website. And then, of course, look for today's thumbnail. When you do go to our website, you'll see that it is all organized by that. You will click on it. Lukashenko ready to launch nukes. Banks have 48 hours. And then you'll find a full list of all of our sources and additional info down at the bottom. You'll see overflow, including Ian Miles Chong tweet, including that video. I can't play that because I don't know what the copyright is of it or if it's literally owned by one of these hacker groups. And definitely not trying to mess with any of them. I'm sure if they can't take down the central banks in Europe, they probably can take me down. So not messing with those guys. And then also tons of other stuff in the political realm. Obviously, yesterday and the last couple days have been nuts because our former president was just rang up and fingerprinted and all that stuff. So that is all down there with a ton of updates. Before we move on, I feel like it's important to tell chat, make sure to be just polite to each other. The mods are down there. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for the mods. They are doing an absolutely awesome job. Always, there's lots of really great people in our mod team, and they are a great part of the Foogle fam. So make sure to go subscribe to them over on marfooglenews.com. There's a bunch of great channels there. And then, of course, that is also where we have located the friends of Marf creators. So that is all of the different folks that we believe you should be watching. There's actually a couple missing on there, so I'm going to add some channels to that. There's really, really great channels that I don't believe are on there. I don't know why. I think something was wrong with the Dutch Sense link or something like that, but we're going to add some more to that. And I probably want to add Ryan Hall, too, because he's really good with the weather. And then A Shell, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. And it looks like I'm Batman78. Thank you. Best news to watch. Thank you, Marf and Dex. Well, thank you. Ambient Horizon, thank you for subscribing. Leish Rodriguez, thank you for subscribing. And then 704 Hip Hop TV and Stan Friend, thank you for subscribing before the show started. I appreciate that. Just if you want to do a quick roll call, let us know where you're at, and of course, pop into chat. Roll call. Where are you from? All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I am doing just fine.
So as far as Belarus and them not hesitating, it seems like there's a narrative being set up here that tactical nukes are going to be set up. I mean, we've talked about this for. Here's the thing. When we talk about something like this much, when something has so many signs pointing that direction, it almost seems like if they did want to point everybody subconsciously to that, they would have to put a lot of signals out there really a lot before to really saturate the idea out in the world. Obviously, one person might miss a single headline or even a couple of days of headlines, but this has been like a year of headlines talking about tactical nukes. Tactical nukes, of course, a huge explosion. And then this is also when we just had in the last month or two, ammonium nitrate, 60,000 pounds went missing. And they basically said that, like a cartoon out of Acme, that a hole was in the bottom of the container on the train, and it was probably just, the powder was just falling out as they drove across the country. And it's probably just a single line along a train track somewhere. I think there's something going on here. I don't know. Of course, obviously, it's probably not connected to the Belarus thing, but it's like there's all these kind of things going on that seem like they are setting us up for something big. Dex, what do you think about Lukashenko making these comments? It's not surprising, but it is kind of a huge thing for them to do.
Well, and it's also not what's also interesting is that he is making it sound like he has the option to push the button whenever he wants. It's not Putin's decision; it's his. At least that's the way it comes across in the rhetoric that he's throwing out there.
Yeah, like he doesn't have a daddy or a puppet stringer right behind him. We don't know what's actually going to happen there. So please let us know in the comments what you think is going to happen. And then, of course, roll call. Thank you, everybody that has made it in. We had Missouri in the house. We had Australia. We had Boise, Idaho. Lots of Missouri. Geez, that's like 4 Missouris. New York. We have Nevada. We have Louisiana. We have Maryland. What is going on? Utah, Alabama, and Michigan. Oxygen is overrated from Cleveland, Ohio. OH. IO. All right. And Belarus has started taking delivery of Russian tactical nuclear weapons. So, Dex, this kind of adds on to the previous story because this is essentially them taking the actual delivery of them, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So now, as of today, they're saying they're there. And the other interesting thing is they're saying that these are 3 times more powerful than what was used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki back in 45. So just to give you some perspective on the size, even though they are tactical, which you typically think are smaller, and they pretty much are, they're a lot smaller than the massive ones, but still 3 times what we did in World War II is kind of still a big deal. So he had some additional statements made today. He said, while we have the missiles and the booms that we've received from Russia, the booms he basically went on to say that they're 3 times the size. He wanted to, emphasize how strong they were. so that people understand that when he, combined this with the prior message that I think was made the day before, which is I'll use them if you cross my border or anybody, messes with us, we're going to fire them. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with his rhetoric.
Sorry, Dex, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Somebody said they're from, I can't say that. They're from Portland, the festering butthole of the universe. That's horrible. It is true. I actually just watched a documentary about how bad Portland is. And it starred the gentleman who goes around to the homeless encampments. And he was videoed going to the homeless encampments, and he has already been shanked, and he has been shot at multiple times. He seems like a very kind of like REI wearing, on the weekends goes and kayaks by himself, that kind of guy. But the guy's actually a savage. He goes in the homeless encampments, basically knows all of the homeless community. And he showed the different kind of craziness that is going on with the homeless encampments, including in Portland or in Oregon. There's even the really like in charge homeless have waterfront homes across from, multi-million-dollar houses that they have built out of the woods. They have literally constructed homes in, the bushes, and some of them are multi-story homes. Just really insane stuff. And what it reminded me of is downtown Seattle. Downtown Seattle is getting that bad as well. If your city is getting really, really bad, let me know. Are your downtown areas shutting down like ours is? Because I know Portland's bad. I know that Seattle is bad. Is that just the West Coast? Is it just a certain type of state? Let me know in the comments down below. And then we have Russia's Medvedev says that Moscow now has free hand to destroy enemies' undersea communications cables. Point out, as speaking of telegraphing, underwater cables have been talked about for a very long time. Underwater communication cables between the U.S. and, of course, Europe has been talked about for a very long time because we've had adversaries like Russia and China and the worry that someday they might snip it, do some sort of cyber attack, some sort of EMP, and then we would not have an actual landline or a physical connection to Europe, and it would cut communications. At the same time, Russia and China are basically creating all sorts of different space weapons that can take out satellites and even on-ground to space weapons that could take them out as well, blind them, lasers and such, etc. But they say that former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said on Wednesday that there were no longer any, quote, moral limits to stop Moscow from destroying its enemies' undersea communication cables, given what he said Western complicity was in the Nord pipeline blast. It said that Medvedev made the comments on his official channel on the Telegram messaging app. It says that the U.S. media reports have suggested that Washington was aware of a UKR plot to take it out of the pipelines. Kiev has denied it, destroyed them. Unexplained explosions ruptured the Nord. And again, they write unexplained, but, many times, many people have explained it, and newly built number 2 pipelines carrying gas from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea last September. So as far as the threats here, it's Medvedev. I wouldn't freak out too much because Medvedev says stuff like this all the time. But why is he specifically saying this? And he was the former president. No one really takes him seriously. And I guess from a prepper standpoint, we look at this and go, okay, maybe this is something at least to put in the back of your head. I would give it a 1% kind of, thought process to it. This isn't something that would make me go bug out or anything. But at the same time, if you are a prepper, then you look at this and you go, okay, this is something that we have talked about for years. Those underwater sea cables could be cut. At the same time, Taiwan actually had 2 of their islands cut off and their underwater sea cables were cut. And they say they were accidents. One was a cargo ship and then one was a fishing boat or a fishing ship that accidentally cut their communications. So this has actually happened recently in times in the last couple months where underwater sea cables ended up getting cut. We also talked about how China actually planned, they lost the contract for a huge, massive Asian underwater sea cable. And what they said is, we don't care we lost it. We're actually going to fund our own, and we're going to stop at every country that your contract goes to and we're going to give them an option to either go through the U.S. and through Western allies, or go through the adversary or their network. And they say, well, you won't have to be spied on by the NSA. So there's been a lot of talk about underwater sea cables. Dex, as far as, they're basically saying after the NORD pipeline that there's no, nothing holding them back from doing something like that. That's really creepy, considering how important they are.
It is, and it wasn't just his Telegram. He also did it in his official Twitter account, the same message in English. And by the way, he does, even though he was the prior president, I think he was the third, as he likes to call himself, from 2008 to 2012. But he is still the deputy chair of the Security Council for the Russian Federation. So he does hold a position. And for him to make these types of statements, that's like an official making them. So that's, very, I'm sure it's, we've heard the rhetoric from them over and over again, and that's fine. But at the same time, you always have to wonder which one is going to actually be the preface to the action.
Exactly. David asks, are U.S. banks going to be okay? If this event with the banks actually happened, then no. I mean, it wouldn't be initial. We don't know exactly what they even would do if they did it. We don't know how real this threat is, and we'll go over that in just a minute. But again, I mean, Dex, wouldn't you say that if all the European banks or a huge chunk of them got hit by a serious event, wouldn't that affect us? I mean, I would think that it would be hard not to, since the whole system is using U.S. dollars, right?
Correct. And they're I think they really are trying to target SWIFT and things like that, and clearing and that type of stuff it's going to have a huge effect if they're able to make any headway in this threat that they put out there. It will have a ripple effect. I don't know if they're coming for our banks particularly. I don't know if maybe the European banks are easier to target than the US banks. Presumably they would, look at them all. Presumably, because we're funding just as much as Europe is funding. Actually, we're funding more, and they're looking at this as a means of stopping the funding of the conflict. So, if that's the case, we certainly, are probably in the crosshairs. Will it make much damage to us? No. But if something happens over there, it will have an effect on the entire global economic system, and it will definitely have a ripple effect to us.
Yeah, and as a few others actually pointed out as well, yeah, the U.S. banks would not be okay if this actually happens. But we don't know what actually happens is, right? We don't know what they would do. On a personal note, I think about my family and like what we would do. I think that the more that you put forethought into these kind of situations and you prepare years in advance, it doesn't worry you as much, but it is something that, depending on your situation, you have to really, there's not really many options for a lot of people. So I'm wondering if something like this does go down, is it planned? Is it part of this whole thing that's happening? People have talked about for years that on a Friday night, all of a sudden the ATMs wouldn't work or something like this. If they did do this, would state actors, or we don't know who's actually behind all these groups, if they did end up affecting the European banks like really bad, would one of the state actors use that as an opportunity to hit other systems with their hackers? And, governments have some of the best hackers out there. So if the Russia, Chinese, or even us, CIA type guys go in, and if there's a bigger plan behind this, that would be very, very intimidating. As far as some people would wonder, why would the U.S. do it? Why would these guys do it? Why, if they are all in cahoots, why would they even do that? Well, if you realize that the money that we have, the whole money that the world is run on right now, is based on the petrodollar, and the new plan, according to all of the world governments, is to go green and to get off of the petrodollar. How do you do that without having a complete reset? How do you go to clean electricity and solar power and all of this stuff and all of that without somehow detaching from the petrodollar? It's not easy. not to mention the US dollar, which the whole world is dependent on, is, by a lot of people's opinions, a Ponzi scheme. It's debt created out of debt. I mean, the first dollar was debt. It was loaned with interest. So how do you keep paying that back? Eventually, they say it has to collapse. So is there a way to collapse it in the best way possible without doing much harm, or Dex, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if they're actually successful at going not just at the end user and your banking login or anything like that, but actually disrupting the flow of money with the banks, basically Swift, if they're able to do that, and it's of significant size, and it causes turmoil in Europe, and people can't get their money, people can't move money around, and that affects the rest of the globe, that's a very good excuse for the central banks to turn around and say, look, it's time to replace this thing we have with the CBDC, with some sort of new digital system that's going to solve this problem, right? So let's put let's create the problem and let's come out with the solution, or let's at least roll out this type of event that causes everybody to have this frustration for days, weeks, or months. Who knows what's going to happen here? And if it happens, that gives a good reason for everybody who want to get behind and say, yeah, we want that solution. Bring that solution around for us, please.
Yeah, as far as this is a lot of stuff is happening all at the same time, so it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. Yobi, thank you for gifting out 5 memberships and badges. Thank you, Yobi. I appreciate that. And Incredibles 777, thank you for subscribing 2 minutes ago. Joseph Macabre, thank you, or Macabre. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you subscribing. And then You Don't Know Me, thank you for subscribing. And Sakila, thank you for subscribing as well. And the JB administration announces additional security assistance for UKR. Now, this isn't crazy big news, because every few weeks, I don't even know how often it is, but we've covered every single time they've approved funding for Ukraine. And it says that today, the Department of Defense announced additional security assistance to meet UKR's critical security and defense needs. This authorization is the JB administration's 40th drawdown of equipment from DoD inventories for UKR since August of 2021. It includes key capabilities to aid UKR's efforts to retake its sovereign territory and support UKR's air defenders as they bravely protect UKR's soldiers, civilians, and critical infrastructure, as well as artillery, anti-armor systems, and ammunition valued up to $325 million. Some of the things that are actually included: additional ammunition for the HIMARS system, additional munitions for the NASAMS, the National Advanced Surface-to-Airs, 15 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles. You have 155 and 105 millimeter artillery rounds, Javelin, tube-launched, optically tracked, wire-guided or tow missiles, and of course, tactical secure communications support, and a whole bunch more. So this is like, as far as they just keep loading up stuff. Our reserves are now going over to UKR. This is so much like World War II in the fact that we're sending gear, we're sending money over to Ukraine. Meanwhile, of course, people are screaming here like, hey, you're giving them our stuff. If we end up getting in a 2-front war or even a 1-front war, what are we going to have? Well, then people respond to that. Well, they're giving the kind of hand-me-down stuff, and then they're going to make more advanced stuff, right? Or any of these NATO countries that end up giving them some Leopard tanks or some F-16s, they're getting a nice new F-35, or they're getting a new Abrams or something, right? But that's not, all of these things are kind of running off of the tax dollars from all of these different countries. So it could be something that they're, basically scamming the people and have an excuse to take a whole bunch of money out, and it goes to all of the military industrial complex. I would assume that that's just a part of it. The other part of it is restructuring the planet. And who knows? The U.S. might not be at the top when this restructure is done. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Mitchell Wintro, thank you. And then over on D-Live, thank you guys for battling back and forth. Scooby-Doo Do-Right, I did take it back. Now it is Your Face Beer. You got a fight going on with Beer Juice. Let's see here. Beer Juice, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, thank you guys for the Ninja Guineas. And then Phil Billy, Beer Juice, and One on B and Zenato 19. And The End is Near. Thank you guys for the lemon war that's going on over on D-Live. Thank you guys. As far as all the stuff, it's not like we don't know what's happening here. And then CIA reportedly urged Ukraine against attacking the pipeline, months before mysterious explosion. Dex, do you want to cover this? Of course, the three-letter agency is involved, right?
Right. Well,
supposedly.
This just keeps evolving. The story does. So when we last reported on this, maybe a few days ago, we were just talking about the fact that they knew. Like, we knew before this happened. We knew, and they were warned. Well, now what they're saying is that the Central Intelligence Organization there actually sent and told them and delivered a message to them, telling them not to do this, or to ward them off from it. So this goes hand in hand with when we were talking earlier with Medvedev's statement. Russia's really been sitting around trying to figure out who's in charge, like who's at fault here, and what are they going to do about it. And they've yet to actually do any form of retaliation, or at least claim they've done anything specifically for this yet. Of course, if it's UKR that's behind it, then the retaliation is they just continue the conflict they're in. But if they find out that it's someone else, I think that's the bigger story. If that comes out. Now, I know we had originally reported, and a lot of people had reported from the Seymour gentleman. I cannot remember his full name. He had put together an entire expo. Yeah, exactly. He had put in an entire expose trying to claim that the U.S. had done it. And some people may believe that or not. It's all murky, so take it for what it's worth. But what they're telling us today is, hey, America told UKR not to do it.
Yep, and they say that they have nothing to do with we don't tell them to go left, we don't tell them to go right. That was Mark Milley a few months ago. It was within one day. Mark Milley says, "Oh, we don't tell UKR what to do. We don't tell them to go. It's not like a thing where we tell them, hey, go left or go right." And then a day later, Mark Milley literally said, "Well, we told them to go south and not east." It's like, there's so many contradicting things here. And as a civilian and somebody who is not in the military, it seems to me like all of this is just a whole cluster. It just seems like, everything is done for some greater reason. And most of us can see that something is going on, but we just can't put our thumb on it. The pipes and stuff, the most logical answer is probably the best. The one that you probably have in your gut is probably the right answer for who did this, right? And they already have a logical answer for what could have happened here. Let's see here. And okay, so now we're going to go over the bank stuff. And I'm going to briefly hit on this. I want you guys to go over to the Marfoogle News short and get the kind of longer story there, because that video was made directly so you guys could have that in a short shareable form, so you could share that out. Share that with your family. It's basically packaging what we're going to talk about right now, and I want to get your feedback on this. So pop in chat if you have an opinion on what is going on with this. Let me know, and then we can add that to at least what get your opinions out there as well. Ian Miles Chong ended up tweeting this out earlier, and it says, pro-Russian hacktivist group Killnet, Anonymous Sudan, and Revel announced their plans to take down the entire European banking systems within the next 48 hours. This was a quote. It says, "This is not a DDoS attack. Games are over. No money, no weapons, no Kiev regime. This is the formula for the death of Nazism." Okay, that's a really sensitive one. "And it will work." It says, "Within 48 hours, we are launching this global company. Nothing will save you, and this is not a warning. I'm just informing. You have never seen such problems before." Now, on Twitter, there was a lot of response, and some had some pretty logical points as far as, in fact, one of the top ones here. Let's see if it's still at the top. Somebody said, somebody pointed out, says, yeah, warn them 48 hours in advance. And others said it doesn't matter if they warn them. If they have the ability to hack it, then it won't matter if they try to defend against it. A lot of people talked about like, hey, this system has really, really good protection. Well, if this does end up happening, we know that something is probably funky because there is a lot of really good systems securing these things. And they have practice for this kind of thing. So, Dex, on a technical viewpoint of this group, and this video, by the way, it has 3 different parties talking on it. And it is all 3 of these hacker groups, supposedly, and they're all kind of masked people. And they're all essentially talking about what their part is. Very creepy video if you watch it.
It certainly is. I mean, let's say back when SolarWinds happened, if hackers like this, these really large groups, these really powerful groups, had gained access to certain key systems that they knew they could use at some point in the future, the best thing they can do is leave it dormant and bring it out, because they only got one chance. Because as soon as they start doing something, they're going to get detected and then have to, battle. So if they were to leave this stuff dormant and then bring it out with their one chance, this could be it. This could be that one chance. That's why I think the comment of the person saying 48 hours doesn't matter, because if they really have the access, they already have it. They've been sitting there waiting.
I mean, that just seems crazy to me. And would 48 hours, so say if they did have something, maybe they knew about a hole to it. Oh, well, let me ask you this, Dex. If they had some sort of backdoor entrance or something, is 48 hours enough time for, even if they got warning, like, hey, in 48 hours, we're going to do this kind of thing, and it's not DDoS, it's a big thing, they're probably guessing on what it is, would they have time to fix that?
Well, these cybersecurity teams have been checking their systems day after day after day for years after years. They do it every day. That's what they do. They're looking for, these infiltrations. But when SolarWinds happened, it created a backdoor that allowed hackers to then create other backdoors that would sit silent, that could basically be undetected and brought to life, so to speak, at a date later in the future or by command. Now, it doesn't mean that the cybersecurity experts haven't been looking for those things, but it also means it may not be something they could even find, because it's not like it's actively doing anything that they would notice that it was there. It's been lying in the dust, so to speak. It's a needle in a stack of needles, and you don't know which one it is.
And obviously, in the other show, we talked about the Davos warning. What if they are referring to that? The SolarWinds didn't just affect the USA. I saw a lot of comments about our SolarWinds video talking about, oh, well, that would probably only affect us. That was a global thing. SolarWinds accessed almost every large corporation that is global, literally every top corporation all of the ones that they're talking about and boycotting and everything else, every company and corporation that probably has your phone number for some sort of loyalty program, all of those companies are involved. Every big grocery store, every big chain, every big food company above those companies, all of them got entered through this. And all 5 of our military branches got hacked. This is a fact. SolarWinds is something that many people that ignore the news or just don't choose to watch it, they missed this over the last couple years. Many people don't follow this stuff, and they don't follow it on purpose. But at this point, if you're an adult, if you are the matriarch or the patriarch of your family, like, you need to literally at least have a basic understanding of what the risks are right now in the next couple years. There's so many arrows pointing to a cyber or a grid down blackout event that it's not funny. It's something very, very serious, and people are not going to know until it's too late. Just as we said before CV, when we told people 5 months before, hey, look at all these drills. It was more than drills. It was like they were preparing. All of the stuff with Timothy Cunningham, all the crazy stuff that happened then. You could see it from a million miles away. And then when it happened, people couldn't literally believe that it was happening, that we were all locked down and this whole thing was happening. Well, now people can't believe this. They just can't believe something so massive could happen. In my opinion, it is happening right now. Solar winds was the setup long term. And then just to remind you, because there's a lot of new people here, solar winds, the largest hack in history, not only got into all 5 of our military branches, including the Space Force, they entered through different states. In the United States, this is particular to us, and I'm assuming they did this other places in the world. They entered HR departments and very specific areas of these systems. So a good example is they entered the system that contains Black Start for the USA. Black Start is a program that if our grid goes down, it would be how they restart the thing. So say the grid goes down, they cyber attack, they hit 9 stations and the whole grid goes down. Well, the USA, whatever event happens, has a backup plan. They go, okay, well, we're going to get a transformer from over here. We're going to bring it here. We're going to do this. We're then going to turn this on. Well, they had that exact plan and they could literally set up pre-hand and essentially stop the process at every step and make sure that we don't turn it back on. That's what Black Start was, and that was accessed very specifically. That same day, there was actually news that there was something that was way more public, that they accessed this thing, but it was actually to draw attention from the fact that they just realized, we found out 3 months later, that they realized that same exact day that Black Start was accessed. And the media, mainstream media, put out like all sorts of crazy distractions to keep people away from that. 3 months later, they admitted it. They said, yeah, this is really bad. On top of that, they accessed actual state computers and systems where they got into the HR departments of infrastructure. So the human resources department that will make you a brand new shiny badge if you work at the water company to get into the water resource or the water source for the town, they got into that department very specifically. So those departments that could make badges to enter, some top clearance kind of facility, they entered those. They could even enter themselves in, put themselves in the back end and put themselves on the payroll. They could put themselves on the actual staff list. They could literally print themselves some, entrance badges or some RFID badges to enter a nuclear facility or something else. That's what happened. And many people do not know this. We have stuff to back it up. We've archived every single show, and we've archived all of the different pieces that went to this. Dex, as far as, do you want to cover the central bankers warn of systemic cyber risk?
It was just fortuitous that today, the central banking meeting that was going on, and they had talked about this being not this warning, but this type of event, a cyber event, being the most risky, the biggest systemic risk that they have to the banking system. And while I'm at it, I just want to add one other quick thing. Somebody said this in chat, and I just looked it up. Monday's a holiday, so if this happens on Friday, it's not only the weekend, it's the entire long weekend. It's a holiday here in the U.S. for our banking system, not for Europe.
That's not that. I'm just hoping this is a literal nothing burger, because this is what we have talked about for years. And what's so crazy is the things that have been talked about on the internet for years and years and years. All of the crazy theories, almost all of them have ended up true. Isn't that just absolutely mind-boggling? Do you remember years and years ago when they said, "Oh, they're using old Walmarts to house people"? People say, "Oh yeah, you're kooky," and then guess what happened? We found out that was true. I mean, there's been a ton of these different things that have happened, but many things. The rumors about CV before CV happened, the rumors about race-specific stuff that they were testing in China and now in the U.S. All of these things were talked about way, way before, and then they were confirmed. All of the stuff that, about the CV that people called out and said, no, this is this is that, and this is bad, and this is this. Almost all of it's been verified now. So when you look at this, how much from every different direction, calling a cyber event likely, this is soon. We're talking in the next 2 years. Not to mention we're lining up with Deagle and all sorts of other crazy things in 2025, and the solar cycle is going to hit its peak. I mean, we're living in crazy, crazy times. And before we move on, make sure to go over and check this out. I would back yourself up. This is our recommendation for a solar generator. Make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/energy. I have the Flex 1500. I also have now I finally got the tactical. I now know the difference between them, and highly recommend the Flex 1500 or the new tactical. These are solar generators that are absolutely silent. They essentially get their power. Either you can charge them from the wall as a giant battery bank, or you can get a package with solar panels, and you can have unlimited power as long as the sun rises. These are really great because honestly, you can be a gray man. You can have these running inside your home, and no one will know you have backup power. This is also a portable system, or it can be a modular system that you can expand up to 96 batteries and have it powering however much you want to power. So the tactical now added a whole bunch of really awesome things, like all of the batteries actually have built-in heaters for extreme colds. It has new latches that can hold up to 1,500 pounds. Basically, this thing could fall off the back of a truck and still be good. And then, of course, it also has water and dust resistance, all sorts of great stuff. I think the tactical is really cool, and while it is, I believe it is still on sale, it is very close to the price of the Flex 1500. So I would get that while you can, but you'll have to wait a while. But again, the Flex 1500, the X2 is the built all-in-one. That one is also on sale, I believe, as well. So make sure to go check that out. Either way, you're going to get a discount with our code, and you're going to be supporting our channel at the same time. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to check out all of the different accessories and the different packages with solar panels. Highly recommend their folding panels because they do have handles, and you can carry with them, and you can go wherever you need to go with this. The X2 is a UPS, and the Flex 1500 is a UPS or uninterrupted power supply if you get the new Flex UPS rapid charger. All right. Yeah, thank you guys, and we appreciate it. It does help us out. We are independent, so thank you. Dex, do you want to go over Russia has lost so much money due to the UKR conflict that it's now trying to raise $4 billion by slapping a windfall tax on its oligarchs?
So this maybe some of the wording in here is a little Ganda-ish, but it's actually happening. At least that's what they're claiming from what's coming out of a draft bill that has been approved now, and it's literally going to slap a 10% one-off windfall tax on large Russian companies, and basically the oligarchs. And it should raise somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.6 billion in taxes, almost $4 billion in taxes. And I guess the assumption that's now being made is they're doing that to raise money, that they need more money for the conflict. That could be the Ganda-ish piece. It could just be that they're just doing this to raise taxes. But obviously, they need the money. If they're raising taxes on anybody, that's more income for the government to then spend for other things. Now, we know they spend a lot, especially as it relates to their GDP towards their military. They always have. That's why for as small a GDP as they have as a large, square area country, they have always spent just a tremendous amount of their money towards their military.
It is the only reason why they're a superpower is because of their nukes and their military. They spend half of their GDP or more on their military. So they have a focus on, if you can't win them over politically, you can beat them up, right? So as far as the taxes, I'm not surprised that they're not taxing the regular people because already they're trying to get the support of most people right now. And then Bill Gates in China, Microsoft co-founder, to meet Xi Jinping. I've told you guys about this for years. Who was hosting parties with Xi Jinping and Xi Jinping's wife? Actually, multiple times. The Chinese oligarchs, the very top people, were actually going to Bill Gates' house. This is as far back as 2015, 2014, and before. I think it was 2015 was the wife. 2016 or 17 was Xi. We're talking about private dinners at his estate, right? Which his estate is like, could be a huge corporate hotel. That's how big they are. I've seen Bill Gates' house. I've gone by on a boat, and it's at least the one I'm thinking of is huge over in Medina. But again, it says Bill Gates, Microsoft Core co-founder, is set to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday during his visit to China. Two people with knowledge on the matter said. The meeting will mark Xi's first meeting with a foreign private entrepreneur in recent years. The people said the encounter may be a one-on-one meeting. A third source confirmed they would meet without providing details. The sources did not say what the two might discuss, but Gates tweeted on Wednesday that he had landed in Beijing for the first time since 2019 and that he would meet with partners who had been working on global health and development challenges with the Bill and Melinda Foundation. The foundation and China's State Council Information Office, which handles media queries on behalf of the Chinese government, did not immediately respond. Gates stepped down from Microsoft board in 2020 to focus on philanthropic work related to global health, education, and the great change of the weather. He quit his full-time executive role at Microsoft in 2008. So yeah, that's why he quit. It's not because of the messy stories that popped out and that most of mainstream media completely ignores. Most of you are going to be on the same page as me. If you guys know that if these folks are meeting, then something big is probably being planned. Most people know that Mr. Bill is behind a whole lot, like a whole lot. And it's kind of freaky thinking about some of the quotes that he has made in the last couple of years. He said there was one specific one, which they debated, and even Snopes couldn't exactly say it was not real. He said, in the next time where we pop our things to vote who leads our country is going to be hung, that there's going to be a civil conflict, or that there's a high chance of a civil conflict, that our next vote is going to be hung. And Dex, can you remember the third part of it? I feel like there was a third part that I'm missing.
No, I just thought it was those two parts, that it was going to be hung and that the civil conflict.
Yeah. Either way, that's plenty enough for me. Why is he saying that? That's the freaky part. Now, Dex, go ahead.
Well, and here's the other thing to think about. We just talked about Elon going over there, and Tim Cook have gone over there. Now, mind you, Elon and Tim have a huge investment in China, right? Apple can't produce their products without, the factories in China that are producing them. And they're trying to diversify, but they're nowhere near it. It's going to take them time. So they're a huge partner of China. Elon sells more cars there than anyone, and he is also a huge partner. Neither one of them met with Xi. He would not meet with them. They met with other heads of state and heads of government there. Mr. Bill here is going to be the first CEO that's heading over there to actually break this hiatus of Xi meeting with these people that are not, world leaders like Putin and others, right? So why is he so special to him? What is really going on here? This is not about, the foundation and philanthropy. There's something bigger going on here, and we'll never know. But man, my head's just spinning about all the possibilities that are happening right now.
Mr. Bill was also involved in the tabletop exercise that everybody has been talking about for a very, very long time. That is also on a lot of folks' mind as far as what could be possible there. Let's see here. And then, by the way, I do want to shout out, there was one person who did kind of make an impact on my brain here. So there was, and I'm not going to put you on blast, because I hope that there's something salvageable there as far as if I can learn something. But there was somebody who lived in China, and essentially they have responded negatively and pretty nasty to a lot of the things I've said about China. And they say, essentially, I don't know if I read it wrong, but they said, to when I said that if we're not careful, that China will lead. And this person said, "Oh, you're saying these nebulous and xenophobic comments." This is a American gentleman who basically moved there, got a family there, and lives there with Chinese residents. And I don't know if the whole story, if he's actually got citizenship or if he's just there. But either way, they have commented before about this, and they're really, really pro-China. And they said something today along the lines as, well, you guys better, that America should be falling in line and other countries should be falling in line if they don't want to alienate themselves. So I don't know if his view is that China should lead. Essentially says all of this, and I responded. I'm like, I really want to know, if you are an American living there, how could you say that it's such a great place to live if in December you just got out of lockdown in December of 2022, just a few months ago, they just got off of lockdown. You have to literally use a VPN. Is this not true that you have to use a VPN? I mean, I've had friends in China. I've had streamer friends that are in there. They had to use a VPN to just stream out their content. They literally had to use a VPN to access me on certain platforms. And as far as you're tracked and traced everywhere you go, if you get a phone or if you get anything there, if you are somebody who is a person from another country, is it not true? Please prove it to me wrong, that you are watched. Essentially, if you're from outside of that country, that they do keep tabs on you. Because we have seen proof of this in documents, even on in China's side. Are you getting all of your information? Where are you getting your information? From Global Times, from the People's Daily, or obviously you can see the internet from everywhere else. Where do you get your information? I'm asking seriously. I want to be as open-minded as possible. I don't want to be rude to somebody if they have a completely different view. If they're from China and they're living in China, and if I'm talking smack about China, then I want to know. I want to know your viewpoint, because I want to debate people. I would love to debate people. I would also like to, see that viewpoint. But it seems to me like if you go over there, yes, it appears like it's all good and that they might tell you everything's okay, but it's very clear they're in their actions. They're going for world domination. I don't even think this person was denying it. They're more saying that it's a good thing. And I'm sorry, I don't feel like the freedoms that you have in China, or the apparent freedoms, I don't think they're equivalent to what we have here, even though our freedoms are going away by the wayside right now. I don't feel they're equal. And I personally do not want Xi as the number one guy who's the peacemaker in the world. Because honestly, it sounds like the news that is coming out of there, a lot of the messaging out of China is that they're being the peacemaker. They're the peacemaker. I kind of also noticed that this person was saying, make peace. And I'm like, that's kind of their angle. So I'm very open-minded, and I think that if somebody is saying the exact opposite of what you are saying, instead of call them names, I would rather have an intellectual conversation about it and try to figure out where, who's got more back to their proof, and then fix the things that you don't have. If I'm saying something wrong, because I don't live in China and there's very little information, if I'm saying something wrong, I would love to correct it. But I don't like people when they go to somebody who has the opposite viewpoint and then just calls them idiots or calls them names. Where does that get us? It doesn't make anybody go with your viewpoint. It just makes people defensive. That's why I try not to do it. That's why I also don't try to block people. I try not to do all of that. And even if I do, I always give them a chance. If they reach out to me, I talk to them and try to get them back in. I would love to know what the opinion is. Like, what are people's arguments for having China be the world leader now? I personally, my opinion is I think that some are that there may be some brainwashing going on. But am I wrong? Change my mind. Maybe I'm the brainwashed one. That's the thing. The first part of like this whole truth thing is we have to realize we are being brainwashed all the time by everywhere. So we really have to question everything. And when they say question everything, you have to question everything. I know that the U.S. does horrible things. I know that all of these countries do. I know that all politicians do these horrible things. If they're up that high, they most likely are on some sort of payroll, or they have some sort of agenda, or they're tied to somebody where they owe somebody a favor where they can't truly do their job right. There's some sort of conflict of interest, right? So I think the more of us, that kind of open our mind to everything, the better. And then China's economy is way more screwed than anyone thought. I'd love to see what it hears about this. I actually don't believe this. So I'd love to hear what they say about this, because they probably say, no, they're not. They're doing better than ever. I actually agree with that. I don't think that this is correct. But again, I'm not a financial expert, so I may be wrong. Dex, do you want to talk about why they're saying that China's economy is screwed?
Well, they were saying coming into the beginning of the year after they got out of basically the lock of the down mode that they were in from the CV, that this would be the year. Everything would come barreling back and, China would have their recovery, as they were calling it. But they're actually saying now that we're 6 months in and they're looking back at the numbers, that it's really far from that. That their debt is extremely high. Their real estate has basically turned into a bubble and is causing a ton of problems now. The trade, both imports and exports, have slowed and slowed markedly, so it's significant. And they're suggesting now that because of the massive amount of debt that they're having and holding inside their country around the real estate bubble that they created, is going to just basically consume all the money that they're making to try to keep everything afloat. And this is coming from a Wall Street perspective. But basically, this is from financial analysts that are saying, hey, we were all expecting to be investing back into China because we were all waiting for them to come out of it. And what they have done for the last, 3 decades of, this massive amount of growth, massive amount of exporting, massive amount of manufacturing, et cetera, where everybody was really excited, they're like, hey, that's not there anymore. It's just not happening. It's like they're in a slump and it hasn't really pumped out like they expected. So that's what's going on, at least from this perspective. And they're also saying it's pretty clear because of the money. They're basically, if people are asking the question, should I be investing there? Just asking that question alone is a bad sign, right? It used to be nobody asked a question about investing over there. All these investors threw their money into China because there was so much growth and so much opportunity. And now there's not, at least from these big, large, Wall Street guys that, have a lot of money to move around. So that's the take. I mean, there's a lot of detail in this article. If you guys want to read it, you're welcome to go do it. But in a general sense, it is a pretty clear picture from a financial investment point of view that they're not seeing the results that they used to see that made them all excited to spend their money in China or invest, I should say, not spend, invest their money in businesses and in opportunities and in real estate and other things like that. So, yeah, that's the gist. It is a very well written piece, and it's definitely got one perspective.
And again, I would love for somebody who lives in China to explain to me the ghost cities. What do you think those are? What are they? I know that in the Chinese culture that a lot of the people there get a second house before they get married, and they'll even just buy one to say that they own one to be able to ask for hand in marriage. I've heard this is the thing. I've heard that they just build it to keep their economy afloat, so they're constantly putting money into the industrial thing. What is the reason you're told there about that? That I would love to know, because I, of course, have crazy silly ideas about what the ghost cities are. And I know they're silly, but something has told me my silly ideas in the past have ended up being true. And it's just nuts. Why do they look like all these different places in the world of Western countries? Why do they make replicas of all these cities? It's just weird. It's odd. And nobody lives in them for years and years on end. I don't get it. U.S. plays down chance of breakthrough from Blinken China visit after tense call. The United States on Wednesday played down expectations of any breakthrough from the first trip by U.S. Secretary of State to China in 5 years after a tense call with China's foreign minister ahead of Antony Blinken's visit to Beijing next week. One thing I also want to point out, like we pointed out before, all of these bigwigs and all of these politicians and very, very important people are going there. Why? Why all of a sudden? Is it because the lockdown's over and now there's a lot more commerce and things going on? I don't get it. And it's Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang urged the United States to stop meddling in its affairs and harming its securities in a call with Blinken on Wednesday, and said that it should respect China's core concerns to arrest declining relations between the superpowers, China's foreign ministry said. U.S. officials said Blinken would push to establish open communication channels to ensure competition with the Chinese does not spiral into conflict. It says, we're not going to Beijing with the intent of having some sort of breakthrough or transformation in the way that we deal with one another. And it says, we're coming to Beijing with a realistic, confident approach and a sincere desire to manage our competition in the most responsible way possible. Dex, what do they mean by competition? Like the chip market, all of the future stuff that's going on in the next 5 years?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above, all of it, from a military perspective to an economic perspective. I mean, just the fact that they, call themselves a superpower. We called them a developing nation for a long time. I think they just talked like a week or so ago in Congress to take away that developing nation status. But, look at the words coming from China. They say between two superpowers. Like, okay, so they now put themselves at the same table as the U.S. So absolutely, the term competition here is pretty much being used to cover the entire the entire umbrella, so to speak.
Yeah. So again, give us your thoughts. Let us know. Danish Girl, if I'm not watching this live, I will watch it later. Appreciate Adam, Dex, Jay, and the sweet mods and the whole fam. Danish Girl, thank you for support. Thank you for stopping by, even if you can't make the lives. No worries. I appreciate that. Skyhouse, I saw that you were concerned because lemons weren't working. I would say just relax and have fun. Try Licit. It's been nice to see you as well. It's been a while, actually. Try Licit. Nice to see you. Thank you for your support. Stephen McMahon says, never met any of you. Funny, it's like I'm talking to a bunch of old friends. Maybe this is how it works. I would say these are the same these are the same conversations I try to have with my friends, but I'm in the wrong state, honestly. Most of my friends are just on a completely different page. It is crazy to have like really, really good friends that you believe are just completely ignorant of a ton of things, and not even ignorant, like brainwashed to go with an agenda. I'm not even on the other side of the agenda. I try to be really equal and try to be open-minded. The one thing I listen to both sides, and I try. We all have our bias. There's no way we don't. But I feel like some of my friends in that category are just literally, they go with these narratives like, if you're right-leaning, then you're racist. I mean, like, that's just kooky to me. That's only in the last few years that's been a thing. I think it's nuts. Or that if you are, then you're immediately some sort of redneck or something. I mean, just all of the stereotypes and everything. Let's see here. Bonic Big Top, thank you for subscribing. Marty Time, thank you so much for subscribing as well. If you subscribe during the show, I'll make sure to shout you out. And of course, thank you, and thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us. And before we move on, synthetic human embryos are made in scientific breakthrough. This is just disturbing. Make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield if you want to protect yourself. If you don't want to have your car all of a sudden not work after an EMP or a CME, a coronal mass ejection, then you would want to wire in an EMP Shield to it. This is a must-have for anybody that wants to keep their car going, their motorcycles, their boats, their generators, or even anything plugged into your house. You can get an EMP Shield to protect all of those things, even your ham radio or your Inergy. You can actually have this protected by an EMP Shield. It's very simple for the car version. You just literally, if you look at the picture here, wire red to red, black to black, and green to ground. Literally, that's how easy it is. 3 wires to hook up, and then your car is protected against an EMP or a CME. This is the same company that's outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and now they are on the DEMSO team helping officially protect the Texas grid. So make sure to go check it out. Mission America is what they call it, but essentially the original founders would like every single person to be protected by this. That's a pretty big goal, and the more people that are protected against EMP, the less people that will be affected. I mean, if the entire grid was now unvulnerable, then we would be in a way better place. But unfortunately, we're not. Our grid is not caught up, and it is extremely vulnerable. If a grid down situation happens, whether it be cyber EMP or a CME, then we are screwed. They say 90% of us would perish in the first year, not because we'd be taking each other out, because infrastructure would literally break down. You would not have water. That's why, along with this, definitely recommend you to have a backup plan, plan with family of where you're going to meet, even a backup plan in case you can't get there by the normal routes, freeway, trails, whatever it may be. All of these things need to be thought about. So make sure to check out also marfooglenews.com/friends. Again, there's all sorts of great channels around us that are telling you how to get through all of these crazy times if they do happen. But yeah, and it protects against lightning. So that's something to keep in mind for, say, your solar systems, your RVs, or your home. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. You get $50 off per device. So if you need to outfit a few cars, this definitely comes in handy because it stacks on top of their sales and it is per device. So marfooglenews.com/EMP. If you don't use the link, make sure to use the code MARF because that will save you $50 per device. Dex, what are they talking about with a synthetic human embryo?
This is unreal. They have actually made human embryos without eggs or without sperm, and they've done it in a lab, and they're saying this is a breakthrough. It's a joint project between Cambridge University and the California Institute of Technology. And they've got it too is that it actually resembles the earliest stages of human development. So they haven't taken it so far as to have the beginnings of a brain or a beating heart or anything like that, but they are at an earlier stage than that. So I don't know, man. This is kind of really creepy and scary. I know, there's a lot of implications to this. I know a lot of people are going to probably be upset about this if they continue. It's very controversial for sure in many minds. As a matter of fact, there's even, and it's interesting is that we don't have laws in place to sort of control this. Even synthetic embryos are not even covered by laws in the UK or in most other countries around the world. So, I don't know. This bothers me personally, but I'm kind of curious what you guys think. So let us know down below in the comments or in chat.
Okay, so we know that they're having these baby labs, these places where they're going to grow human babies, right? If you don't believe me, go look it up. It's a thing. We covered it when they talked about it. We covered it actually from kind of the inception, no pun intended, of the idea, and then from them actually, putting this thing into place. Now, as far as how far along they're on that, we don't actually know if they're doing stuff in secret, and they most likely are, and other countries are most likely doing this in secret. But as far as human embryos made without eggs and without sperm, what the heck are they then? With all the talk about aliens and UFOs, it's like, what the heck is going on here? How? Either way, it's very creepy. You're talking about a future where they don't need humans to make humans. So what use are we? They could make a whole army of laborers that aren't people. I don't know. What does that mean though? If they're not human, right? Would that not be a human? Or am I wrong?
I guess it depends on your definition.
Are these all going to be like 7-foot blonde Norwegians or something? I don't know. And then Elon Musk claims people are cyborgs as our memory is outsourced to computers. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's kind of true if you think about it, especially with the more and more dependence on phones. But what does he mean by cyborgs? He's basically saying that we can't even deal without our devices and computers, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly if you think about the whole notion of a cyborg is like you're combined with a computer. And I think he's made this analogy before with phones, like the fact that our phone is in our hand all the time. We have basically, by way of our eyes and fingers and this phone, have made ourselves into a cyborg. We just don't look like what you would see in a sci-fi movie. And that, the fact that we're now, relying on everything in our memory to sort of be stored in these devices and not having to put so much into our own memory we rely on, the information that we gather, we create, the photos we generate, stuff like that. All of that, it's, it's all being stored digitally, and we just rely on that. We've become reliant on it, where it's literally. I mean, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. I mean, how many of us have a map in the dashboard of your local area so that you know how to find your way to the store, or to the city, the next city over, if you don't know the direction? No, everybody uses their phone to get around. So yeah, we've definitely become very dependent on technology.
And the quote here is, good question, because they said Twitter user programming asked him, is anyone calculating the metrics for how much you are already AI? And it says, good question. We are already cyborgs. Our memory is overwhelmingly outsourced to computers. They remember everything with extreme precision down to the pixel. And then VR will turn us into blobs who drink food out of straws, warns Twitter founder. Now, again, Jack Dorsey it's funny because he has been commenting on pretty much everything lately. Mixed reality headsets like Apple Vision Pro could turn us all into lazy blobs who drink food out of straws and watch TV 24/7. That's literally the picture painted in WALL-E. If you haven't seen that movie, I've watched it with my kids probably 40,000 times. And it shows us in the future floating in space, and everybody's like 500 pounds on, hey, I'm surprised something like that. I bet you Disney wouldn't even make that movie again now. It would be insensitive or something. But they have them floating on these chairs in a ship, and there's thousands of humans, and they're just all the same size blob, having a projected TV screen in front of them, drinking like a big gulp. Literally shows them drinking a big gulp, watching TV. And this is what Jack Dorsey thinks the future is going to be like. One thing I see this. And again, that's at least what the billionaire Twitter founder Jack Dorsey thinks. In an interview, Dorsey said he's worried about that we're moving towards a future that looks a lot like the popular Pixar movie WALL-E. In WALL-E, humanity has spent hundreds of years on a spaceship controlled by AI. Their lives have become so comfortable that nobody has to exercise or work, and instead people just consume nonstop. Dorsey said that's the future we're driving towards, with everyone in floating chairs drinking their food out of straws and constant 24/7 entertainment. The scary thing is he's not wrong where this is headed. If you look at the infrastructure that large corporations like Walmart and Target and all of these different things are setting up and patenting, they're talking about a world where you would sit in your Apple Vision Pod or whatever the heck they're calling it, and you would be able to walk around in the store and shop for things, and you would literally be walking through what your brain is telling you is a Walmart. You grab an object, it tells the Walmart that you bought that object, and then it has already started the drone process of bringing it to you. In the future, they've even set this up, and this is really nuts, where, say, Amazon or Target or Walmart would drone delivery this product, and there's already companies working on a solution from getting it from your front yard or your door and getting it inside your home securely without opening your door. So these kind of things that would basically snatch the package and then slide it through a door in your house and put it in your kitchen or put it in your living room. This is a real thing. They're even coming up with drones that will essentially go from inside, grab the thing, bring it in, and put it where it needs to be. Like, what is our world coming to? We are in the craziest times. I agree with people like Jacob Israel that say, would there be any better time to be alive? The most horrible things are happening, but would any of us really want to not see this craziness happen? I mean, it's really nuts. I mean, like, this is our kids. I can't imagine what they're going to live like in 30 years from now. I just can't imagine it. Dex, I mean, can you really think, like, what is the world going to be like in even 10 years if it's around?
I always envisioned and would rather appreciate what I think I've seen in Star Trek, or it's definitely in other sci-fi movies, but I think Star Trek probably did it best. It's like The Room, where you walk into the room and the room simulates everything. So you're literally still physically doing something, as opposed to just strapping something on your eyeballs and you're just getting out of touch of reality. But neither of those things are here yet. Obviously, the VR is here for gaming. It kind of failed for Worlds with Zuck, but I don't like you said, it's not going away. It's coming around, and looks like Apple's got a pretty good shot at bringing some decent innovation that will probably make this more acceptable. And I think that's the part, is when it becomes acceptable is where it gets scary. It's one thing when it's just single use, like, okay, well, it's a new way to play games. That's fine. But when it starts to become your everyday interaction, kind of like the phone did, the phone used to just be a phone call. And now, like, we do everything on our phone, everything. So when something like this technology starts to take the place of the phone, or even greater, that's when it gets scary, for sure.
And the big thing. So people will end up crediting, in 1,000 years, they'll end up crediting not Jack Dorsey, Zuckerberg, as the one who really tried to push it. He failed, though. I think he won't ever. I think Meta is going to be a horrible failure, and that could bite me in the butt later on. But I think that Apple is going to succeed. Because people are going to want it. We're human beings. People are going to go, I got to have it. It's Apple. People are just going to snatch and consume it. And it's going to be the hot thing that's sold out everywhere, right? They're going to actually grab it. They're going to get it. And one thing that Apple did is, so if people are working from home, like CV, and if another CV happens, who knows, with Bill going and meeting, oligarchs right now, if something like that happens again, this thing scans your face. So then you can, the stupid thing Zuckerberg did was make these little half body cartoons. Nobody thought it was cool. They're like, oh, so you're a little floating avatar. It wasn't, it just, I think they even had it to where it could show your arms waving around. I went in one of those rooms on a Quest, and it was a bunch of people just going like this, little cartoon bodies. They're talking about having a scan of what you look like sitting at a desk. You could sit at a meeting with 25 people at an actual table. There's even apps coming out where it would scan your real room, and then they could choose to be in your room, or you could be choosing in yours, and it would holographically project them in that spot, and it would scan their face. So when they talk. It would move their lips, and it looks like them. It still might be animated at first, but this is really where it's going, where you're going to have a holodeck experience. And that's why decks, they did do it the best in Star Trek, the holodeck, but that's what's coming. That is what they are already setting up the infrastructure for. So, and the digital real estate is now happening too, where you can buy places, and then essentially you might own your home, but you might not own the digital real estate. So somebody drives by your home, somebody else bought your home, and puts up a big billboard. When they drive by wearing their navigation goggles, their Apple Pro, they'll see, Coca-Cola across your house. This is something that is also going to happen very soon. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, last time we were talking about the Apple Vision goggles, I sort of misspoke. I was talking about how you can see through them and talk to someone and they can see you. And I was thinking it was like glass, like a special kind of glass that, can be transparent. But they literally put a screen on the outside of it. Okay. So it learns your face. And like you said, it's got all these sensors all over the place, so it can detect all the changes on your facial expressions. But when someone physically is standing in front of you and looking at you in those Apple glasses, Vision Pro, they're seeing a rendition of your face in the goggles. It's not really your eyes, but as your eyes move, they move on the screen. So they're looking at a fake version of you, which is, it's game changing from a VR point of view, because those goggles that everybody has today, they're just, blank on the other side. There's not another screen there. So yeah, this is,
I didn't know that.
Really creepy. I thought it was really the person's eyes behind it, but no, they put a screen on the front for whoever's looking at you to be able to see you. And yeah, crazy technology. That's probably why it's $3,500.
Oh my gosh. Is that how much it is? And this isn't for sale yet, is it?
It won't be out until next year. It also, the other thing I learned when I was looking at it, it has a battery. Like, the battery goes in your pocket, and there's a wire that runs up to the back of the headset.
That's got to change if they want it to work. I bet you people do it. Just like when Oculus and all of that came out at first, it was all corded. There was no wireless thing. And having the cord behind your head was just super annoying. Any kind of cord, even earphones, how they set them up right now with the Oculus, how they fixed it by basically making the earphones, they have speakers built in, but how they have earphones that are really short wired, or they have really cool ones that actually go over your ears. But it's like with this is something that is going to change how people live. I don't know what you would call myself, because I think there was somebody who said it like a Terran or something. Like I part of me wishes we could go back to no phones, and reverse time to, I don't know, early 90s. Like I kind of wish the technology just stopped at a certain point, but that's not how the world works, and that's not how it is. I wouldn't mind going back to just, if you had to look up something, you went and found a book. Call me a 80-year-old telling you to get off your lawn. I don't know what to say. Miss Jammer, thank you for becoming a member. You didn't have to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to both of the Jammers for being awesome. Jammer, of course, Mr. Jammer is one of our great mods. So thank you, Miss Jammer, and I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. And I know that you guys are dealing with a lot, so thank you for being here. And then Space Force eager to harness satellite servicing technologies. Servicing satellites in orbit is a nascent segment of the space economy that the U.S. military has been watching mostly from the sidelines. The Space Force says it is now ready to get in the game. It is investing in early-stage technologies to laying out a strategy to buy commercial services to refuel and service satellites in geostationary orbit by the early 2030s. The military's thinking about satellite servicing has changed from just a few years ago, when space operators didn't see a strong case for in-orbit repairs and refueling. Now it's viewed as strategic advantage, said Vice Chief of Space Operations General David Thompson. The Space Force considers satellite servicing and in-orbit logistics as core capabilities and is watching developments in the commercial industry, said Thompson. We are ready to use the technology as soon as the market is there, he said May 15th at a Space Force Association event. Meanwhile, there is a whole bunch of design and analysis we have to do to figure out what makes sense. Congress signaled support for these efforts in inserting $30 million in the 2023 Space Force budget on on-orbit servicing technologies. Thompson last year directed the Space Systems Command to use funds to establish a program office and figure out a procurement strategy for servicing satellites. The new office is just starting to get off the ground, said Major General Stephen Purdy, Program Executive Officer for Assured Access to Space at the Space Systems Command. It says it's a little bit of the classic starter's dilemma, he told Space News. There is a desire to have a refueling capability. Why do they need this, Dex? Like, what is the thing? So they want, instead of a one use, like a multi-use type thing? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I'm looking at this as there's probably three different things here. One is they can increase the longevity of devices that they put up. Two, they can fix or repair them or even upgrade them. So imagine you wanted to put the latest lenses that give you much higher powered visibility from a satellite. Well, what we would do is we would build this very expensive satellite and we would launch it and we would deprecate the old one. Well, what if the platform was so simple? All they had to do was launch the camera, along with 1,000 other things that they may launch, and then a system could go and upgrade the camera system on an existing satellite, and they would be able to do that. Or in the case of fuel, I guess in this. But the other thing that is not mentioned here, and this is Space Force, is damage, and not just maybe damage that's incidental that happens from debris or other things, but potentially damage that may happen from conflict. And how can they have a system in place where they can recover those devices, repair them potentially, or put them back into place or refuel them if they run low on fuel.
I like how they say Space Command, for example, operates, quote, neighborhood watch satellites known as GSSAP, Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, to monitor the geostationary belt where the military deploys most of its valuable assets. The neighborhood watch were built to last for decades, but maneuvers must be carefully planned to minimize fuel consumption. If I had the ability to refuel JSAP regularly, do you think we would operate them like we do today? We would not. We would be zipping around the globe. We'd be trying to keep a potential adversary off of balance. We cannot do warfighting in the space domain if we have to measure every drop of fuel and decide whether you really want to do this mission if that means the satellite will run out of fuel 2 years early. So obviously this goes into the whole thing that there's going to be a space war of sorts, and I'm not saying that, but that's what they're saying. Multiple commanders from Space Force said that there's already a space war going on. China's going to have they already have their equivalent of ISS, their space station up, and they say that it is some sort of weapon, that it is crucial to their defense. They're also talking about building a multi-miles long structure in space. So is this to keep tabs on some of that? Is this to keep tabs on us? Are they going to have satellites where when they need one, a satellite can zip around and monitor somebody? Who knows? Scooby-Doo right the end is near. Yobi, thank you so much for all of your support over on D-Live as well. I thank you for coming over to YouTube supporting and going over to D-Live and supporting. Thank you. One Aunt B, Zanado, Scooby-Doo right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, the end is near. Thank you for the lemon war over there on D-Live. I appreciate you guys. All right. And let's see here. Trinity Red or Blue Pill, very interesting. I hope you do a video on some of this stuff. I think Trinity, it would be really cool if you did a video on kind of where the VR stuff is headed. Just a Trinity spin on that would be really cool. If you guys haven't checked out Trinity's channel or any of the other mods, make sure to go over and check out marfugglenews.com/friends. And then, let's see here. Before we move on, make sure to go over and check out marfugglenews.com/prep. If you don't have long-term survival food, this is one of the most affordable ways to get a whole lot at a small price. Again, this 3-month plan is actually now $200 off. And again, this is actually the cheapest it's going to get as far as the price of the freeze-dried food is now tripled in the last 3 years. But now with our $200 off, it is now just $3 under $600, which breaks down to about $200 per month for freeze-dried food that can last 25 years. So again, that's good. If you could get away with $200 a month on regular groceries, that would be great. But this is, again, food that can last 25 plus years. So in 2052, if you need to open one of these up and eat, you can. Freeze-dried food is good not just for an SHTF situation. This is good for any disaster. It's good to have. It's easy to store. And, of course, it is great to have during any kind of event. So marfugglenews.com/prep. You can also get smaller kits like a 72-hour kit for a go bag. There's all sorts of packages. But that is definitely the best deal because you can get a whole lot in bulk with that plan. If your overall goal is to have 6 months to a year of food like they recommend, then this is the best way to do it price-wise. So go to marfugglenews.com/prep. Highly recommend looking at their meat package. It basically comes with a ton of freeze-dried different meats. Make sure to go check that out as well. Definitely complements a lot of the meals. Again, marfugglenews.com/prep. And then also they have tons of other stuff. If you go to the tab at the top, you can see that they have anti-radiation tablets. They have Lexapure Pro, the water filtration system. They have all sorts of gadgets. So if you're a gadget person, a survival gadget person, it's definitely a great place. And it goes to help us as well. We get a small commission of your order. That way we can, of course, reinforce the growth of our channel. And again, thank you so much for your support. marfugglenews.com/prep. Dex, do you want to go over the Marine vet breaks 14-year silence to talk about his 6-man unit saw a UFO?
Wow. Yeah, this is crazy. So, hot on the heels of other whistleblowers, and I guess in some regards that this was, I guess, a reason why he decided to break his 14-year silence. But his claim, and this is an outlandish claim, but maybe it's true. I don't want to totally, credit the guy. It's his claim. He said he saw it, but he said him and five comrades saw a flying saucer being loaded with weapons while serving in Indonesia in 2009. And he was threatened at point by unmarked U.S. forces at the scene. So that's pretty incredible when you think about it. If that was true, and given everything else we're hearing right now, it sort of now wants to lend a little credibility to that, thinking, oh well, here's yet another whistleblower coming out. Now on the flip side, I know a lot of people may look at this and say, hey, all of this news that we're getting about aliens and Antarctica and other stuff like that is all part of a plan to either distract us or to present something to us in a way that we may think it's real but it's not. So there's all sorts of sides to this that you may take, but that's what this gentleman's claiming. He's been silent on it for 14 years, and now I think his name is Michael Herrera. He's come out and he's talking specifically about what happened to him and what he saw during that time.
The timing of this is very sus. Again, does he not feel like he's going to get, if you saw something like that in real life, you would think they're going to take me out if I say anything. Does he feel more comfortable because of the other whistleblowers? Don't know. Did he line up lawyers? Did he line up a bodyguard or something? Because if he really did see that, they said that they held them at point, and that the unmarked U.S. forces were loading weapons into the UFO. It's a wild, wild story. You can read the rest over at marfooglenews.com. And then, of course, Saturn's moon, Enceladus. I think I'm saying that right. Enceladus. Enceladus. Has all the ingredients for life in its icy oceans, but is there life there? For the first time, phosphorus, the rarest of 6 elements upon which life as we know it depends, has been found in a tiny ocean-bearing moon in our solar system. Scientists combing through data sent home by NASA's Cassini spacecraft nearly 15 years ago said that they have found plentiful phosphorus in water geysers that routinely blast into space from
Enceladus,
a tiny moon of Saturn and one of the most likely places in the solar system where life might exist. Enceladus is an ice-covered moon that harbors an enormous ocean of liquid water underneath an icy crust. Scientists have previously found that other key building blocks of life in the moon's ocean, including carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. However, phosphorus, which teams up with sugar to form skeleton to DNA molecules and also helps repair and maintain cell membranes, had so far eluded detection. The intriguing new findings estimate that concentrations of phosphorus on
Enceladus,
are at least 500 times higher than the highest known concentration of Earth's ocean. The discovery, announced in a paper published Wednesday, shows that the icy moon already has one of the hottest candidates in the search for alien life, now satisfies the strictest requirement of habitability. We didn't find life or even something that was created by life, Frank Postberg, a professor of planetary sciences at Fried Universität Berlin in Germany, who led the research. We have just found signs of something that indicates that life could form there pretty good. It is just a habitability indicator and a very good and important one, he added. So is there possibly life on Saturn? We don't know, but they say there's possibly something that says that there could be. Yeah. They say when it said, and by the way, it says the past 5 years, Postberg and his colleagues have been studying data collected by the Cassini back in 2008 when the spacecraft flew through and, quote, tasted the water geysers that Enceladus spews into space. These powerful water jets are likely triggered as the gravity of the gas giant Saturn squeezes the moon, heating up its rocky interior. So I get it, why people question things like this. It's because, like, okay, so we have had a spacecraft fly close enough to Saturn to actually taste or, grab or collect some geysers that are coming out of Saturn, but we still haven't gone back to the moon. Like, it's just, it's absurd. The moon is right there, very close, 220,000 miles or something like that. It doesn't make sense. It would either make more sense if we had a secret base there. China has a secret base. Russia has a secret base. That we all have a secret base there. Then they just haven't gone back since such and such day. When we first went to the moon, we literally had computers in the lunar lander that landed there. To put in perspective, the computer on the lunar lander, the chip inside the happy birthday card that you open up and goes, happy birthday. That chip inside that little card, when you rip the paper open, that chip is as powerful as the entire computer in the lunar lander. It's why people like us are here. It's why we all question everything. It's just absolutely, it's just, there's some sort of big secret there. Something. But who knows? They say in the next couple of years that debate will be solved, because we'll all be traveling to the moon and then Mars, and we'll be sleeping in pods with our VR goggles and be growing daisies on Denundrum.
Of course we landed on the moon. Marf, you're an idiot.
Sure. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only.
I'm sorry. It's funny. Hey, there's a lot going on in the web content. So get over. If you're new here, go to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or click that show notes link. It's down below in the description. It'll take you right here to this page where everything we just covered. If you're looking for all the sources, it's right there. But then you're going to find this yellow bar. It's called overflow. It's the rest of the story. So a lot's happening between Russia and Ukraine. That's all there. We've got, the videos of this tank and what battle was happening here, and, potential catastrophic needs for this, etc. All of the additional content is there. We covered the most important stuff, but the rest of the Ganda-ish stuff is there if you're looking for it. We do have additional updates going around the globe, so to speak. Some stuff coming from China. They're running their ships through. They actually landed in a port in the Philippines on the quote unquote goodwill tour. So as you know, the Philippines has been policing that area quite heavily. So they had announced this. I think we talked a little bit about some of this in the past, that they were going to take it, do their own tour, and now they actually docked at one of the ports. I guess that's nice of them to do, the Philippines, to allow them to do that. But obviously they take a lot of flack against one another over the territorial waters down there. So a lot of other stuff going on with them. Of course, we do have the updates with T-Man and what's going on. That saga is not going to end. It's all there. This is going to get dragged out quite a bit. There's some other updates on what's going on with 2024. Other people that are running. The Miami mayor, I believe it is, has now jumped into the race. So if you want to learn more about that, it's on our website. Some other updates, some stuff going on in Seattle. I guess they're not taking action against graffiti. So if you guys want to paint the town, so to speak, go do it. I'm not telling you to go do that. Don't go commit crimes, but that's what the Seattle city attorney and the police are saying. Hey, we're not dealing with that anymore. They can just do what they want to do. Kind of disheartening, I think, from if you take pride in your town. Hey, there's some orcas that are now over in Massachusetts. I know we've talked about the orcas in that were attacking ships over off of the coast of Spain and other locations. Not necessarily the same ones, but it's sort of a rare thing. They don't normally see orcas in Massachusetts. So there was a whole pod of orcas seen there. And there's also a planetary alignment that's coming up. So if you're curious to see that, you can find out more about how you can see the 5 planets lining up this week. So all of that and so much more, it's right there on our website, marfooglenews.com. We put it together for you every night. Just go to the show notes link down below in the description, or just go to the website and click on the thumbnail for the show.
Yeah, like it would be horrible if like, you know, people in Seattle graffitiing all over the place, like Marfoogle News on YouTube and stuff. Just horrible. You will be arrested. Oh, I guess they won't be. Oh, that's right. They won't be arrested for graffitiing that. Just kidding. Thank you, Beer Juice. Thank you, Stephanie Cook, for becoming a member. Thank you, Trilicit, for, again, thank you for your support. And thank you, Stephen McMahon. Thank you, I'm Batman. There's some great artists, by the way. I just want to point out there's amazing artists in the Foogle fam. I've seen some of your work, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I have some of your work, so thank you. Let's see here. Dex, thank you so much for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out.
It's a shoutro.
It's so obvious, son. Don't you run. Trying to cause a bank run. Don't be dumb. It's so obvious, son. Don't you run. Trying to cause a bank run. Don't be dumb. It's so obvious, son. Don't you run. Trying to cause a bank run. Don't be dumb. I say, Osa, with a Richard there and a Michelle. Monica Crider. Monica Crider. A bit of a cider. Rocky Mountain Homestead and Angela. See her thing and it goes, you are. Don't you know be Katie cleans a lie. Everybody going out now, they see.
Let's make a fresh one. Bum, dum, 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 bum, dum, dum, bum. We got somebody new, I think. Monica Crider, if I'm saying that right. Monica Crider. Crider. Monica. Bum, 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 Monica. Bum, bum, Monica. Bum, 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 Monica. Bum, 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 Monica. Monica.
Gotta find truth.
I said a W-I-S-I-S-J. Scratch on my low, tip somewhere. I said a pinky on the lighter, bring it on the fighter. A Rizar and a Mrs. a glider. Crider. Mama bear and the wire. Oh, I'm full of that desire. Oh, Monica Rider. 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 I said, Joe, that you know in the carol. Scooching on the way, I'm Pharaoh. Kitty, kitty, cow, big bag. Dragging on the fire in the wild pile of the Cyber. And the west of the west, and the O of the best, and the Catalina be missing. Wow. Warring on the G, with that baby. I'ma bring it down now, we're gonna see. I said to Dave, a poco loco, do it down now. Everybody joke, yo, hey, with a Jesse on the Jesse, yeah. Around the bend, boom, boom, dibby, dibby, dum, 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 boom. Cajun, what was that? Cajun one for Christ says, no fear, Marf here. I don't know if somebody said, oh, fearmonger. They always say that. I'm so glad all the audience, they always go, nobody's afraid here because we're prepared. I love you guys. Thank you. Monica Kreider, you didn't have to do that. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the $50 super chat, $49.99. Hopefully that was not a mistake. If that was meant to be $5, again, we can always help you if that was a mistake. It happens all the time, so sorry about that if that was. If not, thank you for the support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Boom, boom. Ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. 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 Ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. Ba-dum,